After 9 years and thousands of bets, there's one thing I can tell you. No matter what you do, you can't outsmart the books. They've got algorithms and quants flowing in from every direction. They basically know your next move before you even open the app. But I'll tell you what, those who actually survive this game long enough, they've figured out a way around it. And as it turns out, it's got little to do with the books, and a whole lot to do with you. Of course, I'm not expecting you to figure it out all on your own. That's why I built a private community. If you're interested in joining, you can find it in the description or just scan this QR code. In the meantime, let me catch you up on one of the biggest traps in sports betting. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the weekend, games are about to start. You open the sportsbook, start scrolling through the lines, and all of a sudden, like a light bulb moment, your brain goes, "Hey, that looks good, that one too, and this one should hit." So, what do? You don't just pick one, you start stacking bets, like this guy. Eagles to win, Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown score, Miles Sanders over on rushing yards, over 44.5 total match points, Eagles versus Giants. And before you know it, you've built a 6-leg parlay. Now, don't get me wrong, it's tempting. Parlay means big payout. But let's be honest here for a second, man to man. Choosing parlay is far from a betting strategy. It's more like a lottery ticket. Because the moment you stack that many legs together, the math starts working against you. All it takes is one unlucky bounce or one bad ref decision, and your entire ticket goes up in flames. Which, by the way, is exactly why sportsbooks love parlays so much. The more legs you add, the bigger their edge becomes. Now, am I saying you should never bet parlays ever? No. But if you are going to do it, you've got to be smarter about it and follow this simple guideline. First, keep them small, only 2 to 3 legs max. Second, make sure the bets actually make sense together. Like if you're betting on a UFC match where one fighter is a knockout artist who almost always finishes in the first 2 rounds, you can't say fighter A to win and fight goes the distance, because those two things don't really line up. Third, and this one's the most important one, every leg should still have value on its own. Yeah, think of parlays like you're building your own Avengers team. You can't just randomly pick any superhero. Each one should have their unique abilities while still working together as a unit. To do that, you can't fall under this next trap, which I'm pretty sure you've heard 1,000 times before. Just trust your gut. Now look, that's great advice if you're deciding what to eat for lunch. But when you're risking money, your gut's got to be one of the worst analysts in the room, because your brain isn't built to memorize data. It's built to remember emotions. You remember all the miracle bets that happened in the past, like when Leicester City FC won the Premier League at 5,000 to 1 odds and shocked the entire sports world, or that insane comeback with the New England Patriots erased a 28-3 deficit against the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl 51. Sure, those are major highlights, but you're forgetting that those outcomes are like 1 in a million. That's because your brain isn't wired to remember all the thousands of normal games where the expected outcome just happened, like when the favorites won or when the totals landed where the market predicted. They're so mundane, and that's exactly the problem. Because when bettors rely on their gut, they're basically betting off a highlight reel of emotional memories. But you want to know what the sharps do instead? They don't ask, what feels right? They check off boxes like finding value, computing probability over odds, watching market movement. Once you start thinking that way, that's when you can make real, life-changing decisions in sports betting. That's when you start building your very own repeatable system. But here's where things get tricky. Because once something works for a while, it's easy to assume it'll keep working forever. So, what do? You follow the script blindly, thinking it'll give you the same results over and over again. But see, that's never guaranteed in sports betting. There's a thing called variance at play. And even if you do win consistently, how do you even know you're actually profiting? You probably don't. Because let me tell you a story. I know a guy, he watched games constantly, thought he was crushing the NFL. In fact, he was confident in it. Then he started tracking properly for the first time after 2 years of betting. 3 months in, the data told him something he didn't think was possible. The NFL was actually bleeding him. He was down nearly 18 units. Meanwhile, his NBA bets, the ones he almost didn't place because he wasn't as confident, were up 23 units. Naturally, he decided to drop the NFL completely and focus solely on the NBA. Guess what happened next? His bankroll grew big time. So, yeah, the moral of the story is, you can't fix what you don't measure. That's why you should always log every bet, date, sport, bet type, odds, stake, result, profit and loss, and closing line value. Of course, you can use a basic spreadsheet to get the job done, but just to make your life a little easier, I actually linked the one I use in the description below. You can click the link there or scan the QR code here, whatever's easier. Now, I don't want to mislead you here, because even if you do track your bets, chances are you're still going to lose. Some people simply brush it off and move on to the next game. But for others, they go the completely opposite direction. They tilt. That's when they start overthinking everything. Every bet they made before, every action they should or shouldn't have chased. Basically, every what-if scenario is playing in their head. And the next thing they know, their brain starts whispering, "You can win it back real quick." So, before they can even contemplate what the smart move is, they're doubling their bets, then doubling it again. It really is a vicious cycle that can turn even the best bettors into gamblers in just about 10 seconds. But the good news is, there's an easy fix. All you have to do is set rules for yourself before your emotions get a say. For example, set a daily loss cap, meaning if you lose 3 units, that's your cue to stop while you're still ahead. But before you get to that stage, you could also pause after losing 2 bets in a row. And don't even try tricking yourself that you're allowed more action by switching markets mid-session. At some point, you gotta be real honest with yourself and admit defeat. Once you do that, you take the chaos out of betting and give yourself a chance to rethink your strategy while protecting your bankroll, of course. Speaking of which, here's something I learned about bankrolls. Doesn't matter if you've got a killer system or if you track every bet. If you're not sizing your bets right, you can still blow it up. Most amateur bettors think the size of the bet doesn't matter. Just a little here, a little there, and you should be good to go, right? Wrong. Because take a look at this. Let's say your bankroll is $1,000. You place a $200 bet on a game because you've seen the stats and you're confident it'll hit. Just a reminder, that's 20% of your entire bankroll. And then you lose. Now, you're down to $800. Which means you either bet more to win it back, and as we've seen before, it doesn't always end well. Or you size down to recover all that lost ground just to break even. If you're smart, you'll choose the second option. But this time, you're not just going to rely on randomness. You're going to use a formula called the Kelly criterion. Don't freak out, it's not rocket science. It's basically a way to figure out how much to bet based on your edge, the probability of winning, and the odds. That's it. So real quick, here's how that looks. Which means if your bankroll is $1,000 and you find plus 100 odds, with the probability of winning at 55%, the full Kelly will tell you to bet 10% of your bankroll, which is $100 in this case. Now, most pros don't do full Kelly because it's pretty aggressive. Instead, they size down to half or a quarter to survive variance. Or if you don't want to bother with math, just like me, follow what I do. Just stick to 1 to 2% of your bankroll. It works like a charm. And you know me, I practice what I preach. So, if you're curious to see how I've applied these lessons in sports betting, I actually dropped a video sharing my exact system to go from $0 to $10,000. Just click right here.